Life begins when you understand living women matter more than potential babies.
What is it?
What do you mean?
If it's a potential baby, what is inside of a woman?
It's a fetus?
Is it living?
No.
How can it grow if it's not living?
Actually, that's like saying if an acorn is a tree.
When does the fetus become living?
No.
That's actually a good question, but that line...
A sensible argument reveals the shortcomings of a woke, pro-choice perspective. The debate centers on the beginning of life, questioning the difference between a fetus and a living person. It challenges the notion that sustainability is the sole determinant of life, comparing a fetus to a newborn's reliance on others.
She gets up and she says, Patrick, this is very hard for me to say this. And let me tell you why it's very hard. I said, what's that? She says, ever since in high school, I wanted to prove to men that I can beat them. So when I graduated high school and college, I opened up my salon. We do very well. I've made millions of dollars. My people and my work that work at the salon, they do very well for themselves. I drive a nice car, I have a nice house, I have money, I have millions. I don't worry about any of that stuff. You know what decision I made last night? I said, what's that? She says, I want a husband. I no longer want to compete with men. I need them. And I'm like, what? She's saying this in front of 2,000 people with her sister sitting right next to her. Wow. And now she's getting emotional. How many 65-year-old women do we have to hear saying that I marched with the feminist movement and I bought into the fact that men are the enemy? I've never been married. I'm alone and I'm miserable and I wish I would have never bought into that philosophy.
The harsh reality of modern feminism is revealed when a successful woman admits she once aimed to outdo men. Despite her achievements and wealth, she now longs for a partner. Her past belief that men were foes has left her feeling lonely and unfulfilled, regretting that her quest for dominance led to isolation.
Your table and trying to disrupt your evening. It's abuse.
I am going to start running into vegan restaurants.
That's fine. Go for
just
it.
Shouting
That's your
and
right,
being annoying
right to protest
and grabbing
this.
tables and so you can't eat your gruel and just see how you lot like it. I'm
Honestly,
going to go to your house and chop paint all over it.
Here's. You've got a right to protest. Oof! You've got me another one.
Stick it off your bingo.
Fantastic.
Stick it off your bingo, son.
But where's the salt? Where's it?
Won't need any of this gruel. Let's put that
Fantastic.
to one side, but I will have a bit of steak just to...
You didn't salt it, though.
You see, all you've achieved is you've made me want to do this. Just eat a
that's
lovely...
absolutely fine. You go for it.
Do you know how many steaks he's had from my restaurant?
Yeah, a lot. But here's my point. I love eating steak. I'm not going to stop eating steak.
Yeah.
And the very last thing on earth that will stop me eating steak is people like you with your pasty faces running into our restaurants telling us to stop eating steak.
We took LGB and then we added LGBTQIA+++, and then we included men who dress up like women and mock women like influencer Dylan Mulvaney. And then a lot of American conservatives just said, listen, we've had enough. It's okay if you're proud of your sexuality, but why do I have to be proud of your sexuality? That's where you lost a lot of folks, and we're starting to finally stand
firstly,
up
I'll say
and
Dylan
enough
is a
is
trans
enough.
woman. Dylan is a woman, so you got that wrong. And secondly...
Well, Dylan was a gay man until last year. Well, hang on. Dylan was a gay man until last year.
They've transitioned, they're a woman. I think that we lost people right at the beginning when gay people were dying in the streets because no one was looking out for us. So actually what we're doing right now is just... I wouldn't even use the word celebrating. I think pride is a protest.
Is it a bit too much? In other words, do you want to...
What does that mean? What is too much?
In other words, I think with every campaign, bringing people with you is really important, right? The moment it looks like it's just over the top, like it's everywhere you go is pride, 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 pride. Do we need to be that exuberant about it?
Are you blaming gay people for that? I mean,
no.
It's not our fault that companies...
Honestly, I don't care what sexuality anybody is. I don't think most people...
Morgan questions the notion that people can define their identities however they choose, asking why this flexibility doesn't extend to other identities like being a black lesbian. He critiques what he sees as absurd aspects of modern activism, particularly when it affects women's sports and public spaces. Morgan also addresses body positivity, arguing that promoting obesity is dangerous and misguided.
I am so tired of talking about woke culture, because one of the tenets of wokeness is, of course, that your feelings matter more than the truth. And the only thing that wokeness has to offer in exchange is to brainwash bright young minds like you to believe that you are victims. We are told that your generation cares more than any other about one issue in particular, and that issue is climate change. I will join you in worshipping at the feet of St. Greta of climate change. This country is responsible for 2% of global carbon emissions, which means that if Britain was to sink into the sea right now, it would make absolutely no difference to the issue of climate change. You know why? Because the future of the climate is going to be decided in Asia and in Latin America by poor people who couldn't give a shit about saving the planet. A third of all children who live in extreme poverty in the world live in India.
Konstantin Kisin critiques the woke culture, arguing that it values emotions over facts and indoctrinates youth into a victim mentality. He humorously mentions climate activism, noting that despite the focus on climate issues, Britain's role in global carbon emissions is minor.
Abortions after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks is not a return to the Dark Ages. What's your answer?
My answer is something called science. Human life exists at conception. It ought to be protected. Now, back to my question to you. You purport to be an objective journalist. BBC purports to be an objective down-the-middle network. It obviously is not. It never has been. And you as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back to the Dark Ages. Why don't you just say that you're on the left? Is this so hard for you? Why can't you just be honest?
Mr.
Seriously,
Shapiro,
it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it. I just asked you a question.
And I asked you a question. You failed to answer a single one of mine. Frankly, I find this whole thing a waste of time. If you want to read the book and critique the book, why don't you read and critique the book? If you want to critique me, you can think whatever you want of me.
Why don't you
frankly,
just try and
I don't
answer
care.
the
I don't frankly give a damn what you think of me since I've never heard of you.
And I've never heard of you until I briefed myself for this. But that's not the issue. You have a
Then
new
why the hell
book
are you
out,
interviewing
and
me, sir?
it's an interesting book. But my point is, your book claims that
Well, it'd be
society...
nice if you would quote it from time to time.
Your book is... Well, actually, I've done so several times, and I'm about to do so again, if you would let me just finish the question. Your book
frankly, I don't
claims
think
that society
you know what? Honestly,
is turning its back
sir,
on Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah,
What are those values? What are the values it's turning its back on?
I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer. So I think we're done here. I appreciate your time, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse. Now, Mr. Shapiro, we'll see.
Andrew Neil questioned Ben Shapiro about his stance on abortion restrictions. Neil challenged Shapiro's claim that a 6-week abortion ban isn't a regression, pressing him to address perceived biases at the BBC and the arguments in his book about society straying from Judeo-Christian values.
What were some of the things you were told about men while growing up?
Don't trust them. Yeah, I agree with that one.
What is the most surprising thing you've learned about men from your experiences?
You can't trust them. Facts.
Do you prefer a man who is a gentleman or a bad boy?
Bad boy. Bad boy.
Is it fair to say women lust after bad boys but want to settle down with nice guys?
Yeah.
If you happen to be looking for a quality man, where would you expect to find one?
A quality man? Church. Yes, that's...
When was the last time you went to church?
Two progressive feminists reveal their biased views about men expressing mistrust, yet attraction to bad boys. They admit that while they are drawn to bad boys, they prefer to marry nice guys. Ironically, when asked about meeting a good man at church, one of them admits she hasn't attended church recently, exposing their inconsistencies.
Woke is what was sort of ruining everything, and I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and
migrate.
So why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want, because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right.
Well, he's talking about the left. Well, then
okay, but we talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a joke. But,
Too dark, too dark.
Well, maybe it is, but it's true. I mean, you know, if I had any doubt that I was right about the change that's happened in the left, watching people protest for a terrorist organization like Hamas, that straightened me up pretty quick.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that because I think you're almost a free speech absolutist. You believe totally in the right to say what you believe, but I think a lot of us were disturbed to see terrorist flags being waved on American college campuses and seeing this, a generation that some I think genuinely care about the plight of the Palestinians. I think most Americans do, but some who seem to be embracing a terrorist organization over the nation of Israel. What do you make of this moment? What do you think it's a result of? How do we fix it?
Well, I mean, it's just astounding to me that they can't tell the...
Bill Maher discusses the changing usage of the term woke and its politicization.
No, I mean, this is a show watched by a lot of women. Women have no rights in this place, and a lot of majority Muslim countries around the world. I mean, there is no equal rights as far as speech, dress, opportunities for education, reproductive rights, freedom from sexual violence, freedom from sexual harassment.
The LGBTQ community as well.
Yes. That too. But you throw around the term apartheid. There is a gender apartheid in a lot of the world where women are second-class citizens at best.
Are you at all concerned about the innocent civilians that have been collectively punished and murdered, largely children and women? And are you at all concerned about the fact that the International Criminal Court just today issued a subpoena for Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, that's ridiculous, but it's a war.
Why?
It's a war. Because it's a war, and they were attacked, and they're defending themselves. Now, this is a war. Do you think Hamas needs to be destroyed? This is the question.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
So how can we do that with a ceasefire?
All right. So Hamas needs to be destroyed because they are a terrorist organization who say openly that they want to commit genocide on the Jewish people, on the state of Israel. That's what from the river to the sea means. Okay? And they say it very openly. They said, we did this attack. They've attacked Israel 5 times. They've started 5 wars since they were given that land back. They could have chosen to turn that place into any place they wanted to, and they took a lot of money that they took from the international community, and they spent it on bombs and guns and building tunnels. So if they need to be destroyed, how do we do that? It's a war. I don't know how to do that, and you don't know how to do that. I assume the Israeli... Of course, everybody is...
He voices concerns about the shift in leftist values, criticizing the acceptance of extreme views like those of Hamas on college campuses.
Here's a way to stop that. Stop attacking Israel.
And stop calling for the annihilation of Israel and all the Jews. They're calling for the annihilation of the Jews. And so you can't really defend that on the other side very easily.
But before we go, I want to say...
No, we're not going anywhere yet.
Okay, but I just want to say one thing, as we were talking in the break. Joy is a wonderful human being, and she should not be afraid that people are going to attack her because she said that thing about the swastika on the cap. She does not think that as you said to me in the break, you do not think that all the people who are for Trump are Nazis.
No, I don't.
You don't.
I just want them to pay attention to words like vermin and poisoning the blood and the Third Reich. That's all. That's really what I'm asking.
They see Trump as a comedian. They see him as a clown who says crazy things.
They saw Hitler like that.
Right, okay, but that doesn't mean, you can hate Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It is half the country.
I have some in my family. I don't think they're Nazis.
Okay, great. I'm glad we got that. I don't want you hurt in the supermarket.
I have a question for you because I don't know if you've noticed what I've noticed, but I find that oftentimes when I'm watching the news, I'm only getting portions because one of the things that happens, I was listening to you talk about, the kids that had the Hamas flags. It reminded me of when people were saying Antifa is there, and doing that. So bad players show up and make stuff happen. But do you find that the view that we're being shown seems to be meant to guide us into thinking about people one way, when in fact it may be a much bigger conversation?
Oh, of course. I mean, the media is always going to just chase what is interesting to watch. I mean, I used to be able to watch the nightly news, for example. I can't do it. I mean, first of all, it's...
Marr highlights the risks of media narratives and advocates for a clear grasp of complex issues.